has already been budgeted, and I think it's common sense that the money, and rather than going to some public school, will go to a charter school, the already budgeted money.
Representative Bitt, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I voted on the ITL list based on the information available, and I did have a question about the tax issue with the communities and everything. And at the time we voted the ITL, afterwards somebody had explained this to me, that there are issues where you could have a have a town, and they send their students to another to a school district in another town. The voters approve, let's say, if I was in Salem, say I vote in my budget to send 20 people to Pinkerton. All right, so that's the vote, that's what's taken out on the tax. If we had two kids go, and this is not Salem, but in another area, if let's say two kids during that school year wanted to go to a charter school, because the voters had voted to send them to X school, they never approved the funding for the charter school. So we go back into the community. So I guess my main concern with the ITL is really a funding issue. And I know what Ralph is saying, but I think there's school districts now where you know, it's possible that a kid could go to a charter school, but the voters, the way it's set up, has not approved that funding. So I have that kind of a concern. So.
And I think that's a legitimate concern. Representative Myler.
Thank you. Just for your information too, we did ask the department for how many school districts this might affect. And I think I recall it was like 15 that would fall into this kind of category. I just thought the committee should have that information.
It was 15.
15, yeah.
Representative Gorman.
If that's okay, Madam Chair. I'm all set. Thank you.
Further discussion or questions for Representative Myler or a member of the subcommittee? Representative Greenmore.
Well, I have a question, and I don't know who would answer this, but the question is if the voters are taxed for the school year and money is extracted from the individuals and given to the school district, doesn't the school district have an obligation to use that money to educate the children? And if it's their children that's going to a charter school, shouldn't that money go with the child?
I don't feel I'm in a position to answer that question. It sounds to me when the voters make a decision relative to how they want their money used, and if there's a decision or something happens during the year and there has to be it's a different scenario, then it would seem to me the voters would be recalled to act on that change. It's their money.
I don't know how, yeah, exactly, and I don't know how that works.
I mean, I've been a long time since I've had kids in school and been involved in school board issues. Representative Cordelli, you had your hand up, and then Representative Spang, and then, well, thank you, I'm sorry.
Need the assistant clerk?
Yes. Not make it hard. Keep trying. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Fraser. I view it as an equity issue, in that one way or another, that money would go to a public school, whether it's a traditional public school or a chartered public school. That money should go to the child.
All right, thank you. Who was next? Representative Fraser. All right.
Initially, I agree that the money should go with the child, with the school district is enjoying it. But I am convinced by Representative Granier's argument that it should be up to the school district and to decide, and possibly to vote on whether this is the way that they want to go, that they prefer to spend this money on the charter school rather than sending it to another school. So I will be voting against this.
Thank you, Representative Spang. Representative Gorman?
Yeah, yes, Madam Chair, I believe that this is a financial requirement, a new financial requirement Mitchner to explain it in a tad more detail, because I don't want to confuse anybody if we indulge that.
Yes, I would. Mr. Mitchell, would you like to clarify the question for?
So I don't look stupid.
Thank you.
Dean Mitchner with School Boards Association. There is no requirement for this to happen right now, so this would be a new provision. It affects more than just the 15 school districts. It affects districts, for example, that don't have a high school, but have a tuition agreement for sending their high school students to another district. So that can bump the number up to, don't quote me on the number, but approximately around 90 districts. Right now, if we take a district that doesn't operate any schools and they have a tuition contract, if they budgeted for the 20 students, they could have 20 students that next year, they could have 22, they could have 18. They budgeted for 20. If 18 of the students go to the district where they've tuitioned and 2 decide to go to the charter school, right now the district would save the tuition amount for those 2 students who would not be expended. Under this law, that money would have to be expended. If 2 students moved into the district and 20 students that were budgeted for all went to the tuition district, 2 students moved in and wanted to go to the charter school, they would have to pay the tuition amount and they would be at a deficit. So yes, there may be a surplus or there may be a deficit. It's what it's what school districts go through all the time. But this would be a new requirement on the districts to spend that money. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Representative Brenner.
Yeah, and since the question was raised about how Hastings work in the school district, I would like to clarify a few things on this. Number one, again, I will preface this by saying, if the district that I was in had decided and voted to let us pay for them to go to the charter school, I certainly would think it would be a great idea. But in terms of budgeting for tuition, we have to keep in mind that all schools budget for what would be 180 days of attendance of every student they tuition anywhere, high school, etc. And now we get into ADM because you only pay for the ADM number at the end of the year. So for instance, if all of your kids combined had 85% attendance, you're only paying 85% of what you appropriated. There is always a built-in savings if you don't get new students. Usually the new students come in, but you've got that little buffer. This bill would engage, as Mr. Mitchner said, that some of that buffer. And again, if it were up to me and the voters approved this is more a thing about personal choice or local choice than it is anything else. And if we knew we were going to have students going and the voters approved raising their tax dollars to send them there, I would be pushing it. But the way it stands right now, I can't support it.
Representative Ladd and then Representative Bone.
As I recall, the conversation I had with Mr. Mitchner in the hallway, not more about out front of the Capitol there, about 3 weeks ago or whatever, we were talking about a K-8 school that wants tuition, let's say for high school, out of their district. You negotiate that with that other board and your board has to approve that tuition rate. Now you have one youngster for a hardship or some reason that can't go to that tuition and they want to go to another school. Is that done by the school board or can that be done administratively? And I believe in some districts it is done administratively. So you don't have to have school board permission, so you negotiate instead of 15 grand, which might be what you've negotiated for the majority of kids, 13. Could you not do that with a charter school as well, using this formula or the process which is spelled out here? And I see no reason why that could not be done.
Representative Bone.
Yes, and thank you. And schools all have different agreements with the schools, their tuitioning, like Representative Grenier said, goes by ABM, but that depending on the school district's agreement. When we didn't have a high school, our agreement was no less than 75% would go to one high school and no more than 25% would go to another high school. And that was the agreements that was done, so those numbers were always open. And the budgeting was based on, and the people didn't vote on that 25%. They voted on the total amount of tuition, knowing that full well kids will be going to different high schools, depending on really where the kid wanted to go. And also, back to what Representative Ladd said, just no different than if we have a child that for some reason or another, hardship or whatever, wants to go to a different school in a different district. It is up to the superintendent and the school board to do it based on that school's tuition rate. So that's no different. It can be done without the voters having to approve it. They already approved the budget. This is the school board prudential use of spending the budget.
Representative Grenier.
Madam Chair, I don't have that policy with me, but the policy that allows an exception to accepted or agreed upon receiving schools has criteria that have to be followed. And you could say hardship, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific hardship, but nonetheless, there's a policy for that. And I wish I had it, but it would not be simply because someone wants to go to charter school. It could be if there was a reason, and maybe someone has that policy here, I don't know.
I know in one particular school district, if a person, they have an agreement to send their children to one particular high school, but there are other options in the area, the person who wishes to go to one of the optional schools has to prove that the courses that their child wants to take are not being offered at the agreed upon sending school. So I don't know, yeah, but that's.
The other question is, my understanding is that to get into a charter school, your name is put into the lottery system. So if a student was not doing well in the current public school, and the parents wanted to find an alternative school out of district or to suggest a charter school, what if that child is not part of the lottery? So there, I mean, there are a number of areas. Representative Byler.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think the last discussion has all been focused around the local prerogative. It's permissive at this point in time for what the school district wants to do. My concern here is that it doesn't then become permissive. Because you have an opportunity at the local level to say this is where we have a child who wants to do this, wants to do that. You enter in, as Representative Ladd was saying, you enter into an agreement with what that's gonna be. But it's focused at what's best at the local level. This makes it mandatory, not permissive. And I guess that was one of the concerns we had as a
Yeah,
subcommittee.
that is interesting. Well, we do have a motion on the floor, moved by Representative Myler to ITL this bill and seconded by Representative Rokas. Are we ready to vote on this bill? All right, then I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Representative Grassi,
Yes.
this is to ITL.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Representative Shaw, yes. Representative Gorman,
Yes.
Representative Kane,
Yes.
Representative Frazier,
Yes.
Representative Stang, Representative Rokas,
Yes.
Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Myler,
Yes,
Representative Bohm,
No.
Representative Ladd,
No.
Representative Greenmore, Representative Petrie,
No.
Representative Bick,
I'm gonna go with no.
Representative Cordelli,
No.
Representative Grenier,
Yes.
Representative Harris,
No.
Representative Guile,
Yes.
11-7.
Will there be a minority report?
Yes, all right.
Mr. Dahl is ready for minority report. Have you got them already, Rick?
No, I was lazy last week.
All right.
Yeah.
Looking stupid. House Bill 1449, which is relative to the requirements for filing a charter school application. And Representative Fraser, you have an amendment to share with the committee.
Yeah, I would say that the subcommittee did vote ought to pass pending the amendment from Representative Fraser.
All right, thank you. It is called, you can close the window.
Well, that's really popular.
Yeah, I know, it's just.
We can reopen the one.
We can reopen it. It'd be good, yeah. Thanks. Now, Representative Myler, I know you chaired the subcommittee on this bill. Are you going to defer to Representative Fraser to review the
Yes,
amendment?
yes, I am, and then I have a supporting document for her
All right.
presentation.
All right, Representative Fraser, you're on with amendment 0619H.
Yes, this, when we had the hearing on this, there were several objections. And I think I think this amendment meets all the objections that I heard. A major difference between this and the original bill was in line 6. Originally it said the educational vision statement shall count for not less. Before it said 60, now it says 50%. So that number was lowered. In response to some of the comments, there were 3 lines in there that would have been approximately where lines 14 and 15 are now. There was something objected to there that I eliminated those 3 lines and kind of included them in the phrasing of the other. I think every concern was met here. There was a feeling that it was too specific and rigid. I did rephrase the language to make it a little broader and less rigid. And then the committee did approve a version of this that was just like this. Except that when the committee approved it, it said 55%, but I talked to individual committee members of the committee who agreed to lowering it to 50%. And then the last change was Representative Ladd pointed out to me, to my embarrassment as a lifelong English teacher, that I had said different 4 times. And that there was problems with that word in and of itself. So those have all been taken out and other language substituted. And that's where we stand now. There's just one other thing, one objection that I would like to respond to that you would not see in the bill here. It was an objection to just the bill as in general, and that was testimony that we heard that the parts 1 and 2 would be difficult to do for the charter school applicants to do because the public schools will not do not like to give out this information. And I'd like to suggest that if that is true, then we can't have any charter schools at all based on curriculum or or innovation, as most of our current charter schools have been approved on the grounds of innovation or the kind of curriculum they are going to offer. And the claim that it is not what the public schools are doing is different. If public schools do not give out this information, then there is no way of knowing that, and we wouldn't be able to. If we accept that you can't get this information, then what happens to most of the charter schools who have even more, or approving any more on these grounds if that information can't be gained? So that's the extent of the comments I wanted to make.
Representative Fraser, are you going to make the motion, or,
Yes, I will move off the tax on the bill.
is there a second?
On the amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the
Yeah,
amendment, I'm sorry, yes,
On the
amendment.
amendment.
Representative Fraser?
Madam Chair, can I speak for a second?
Yes, certainly.
Let me, you know, when you look at this issue, and, I'll pass it down. When you think mission statement, what's a big deal about the mission statement? Well, I shared this visual with the committee, and I think oftentimes the mission statement is way overlooked. And if you look at the study of successful businesses, in fact, Representative Willett was on the subcommittee, and he made this point very vividly, that successful businesses are driven by mission statements, mission and vision statements. And so I just shared this visual from a standpoint of something that I've used as I've worked with businesses and schools. And it's a very simple concept. And that is, if you look at this tree, when you see a tree, it's very easy to see what you see. You see the branches, you see the leaves, etc. What you don't see is the root of the tree. And the root of the tree is what provides that tree to exist. If you were to cut that tree off and plant it in your yard without the roots, it would be there for a couple of weeks and you would see it start to die because the system isn't there. Now if you take that same metaphor and you use it for schools, then you can see programs, you can see staff, you can see buildings, etc. What you don't see is the mission, the vision, and the core values of the school. And frankly, if a staff and if a school is not clearly focused on what their mission is, every decision has to be driven by that mission. Because if it's not driven by that mission, it's really random. And frankly, we spend a lot of time up in that box right there, without really spending much time to see whether or not those decisions are really reflective of the mission. If you turn the page over, this is a little more graphic, but you can see the power. This is what I call the wedding cake. And again, if you look at the issue of the identity being the core values, the purpose being the mission, the vision, strategy, tactics, activities, we spend all our time, most of the time, focused on the activity part without really understanding how those activities are reflective of the mission. So as Representative Fraser was bringing this forward, it just said to me, this is not a really simple thing. For somebody to sit down and just write a cute little mission statement and put it on an application, say, oh, that looks really good, without really understanding, is that mission statement going to really drive the intentional decisions that are going to make this program successful? So that's why I think this is, for me, it's a very serious motion here, because it focuses on the people who are trying to create charter schools to be very clear about what their intention is, and if they're very clear about what that intention is, the likelihood of their success is going to be much higher than if it's just a random, cute kind of a statement. Because believe me, I've been involved in developing those cute little statements, and those statements go up on the shelf of indecision, and no change takes place in the organization. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Representative Malley. Representative Gorman and then Representative Spang.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To go along with my colleague, cute missions, cute is a four-letter word. And what mission statements do is they separate the entity from others in a clear and concrete manner. And if an organization cannot identify itself in such a clear and organized manner, then they really do not have a view of what they are trying to do. And in education and in successful businesses, every decision goes back to the mission statement. Are we meeting our mission? Does this step take us closer to the fulfillment of the mission? And I agree, it's very, very important, and I think that charter schools need to write a clear mission statement. And according to Peter Drucker, it can be done in 250 words or less. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gorman. Representative Shaw and then Representative Grenier.
Thank you. This is certainly a big improvement over the bill, because I thought the bill was much too restrictive. I still have two areas of concern, and one of them is line 9, where it says on the, this is the amendment, will serve a student population in a geographic area where charter public schools are not present or reasonably accessible. To me, that's limiting a charter school that may want to open in Manchester, where there's no other charter school there that reaches out to ELL kids, that wants to have a charter school specifically geared for English language learners, and yet there are charter schools in that geographic area. It doesn't say that, so it's limiting, it's saying that school could not open in Manchester because there are other chartered public schools in the area. It's not saying that if it said something like charter schools with that same mission or something like that are located. And the second point is, and I'll entertain answers as soon as, I'll just say the second point, a clear and specific description of the academic, this is in line 23, for each area of specialization and convincing evidence. I don't believe you need the word convincing. You need evidence that the program will differ from those. But who's going to determine whether it's convincing evidence? Evidence is evidence. And I don't think the word convincing should be in there. And those are the only two things. Otherwise, I think I could support this, because I think that charter schools do have missions. They know what their mission is, and they very easily could state their missions according to this. And I like the 50% rather than the higher amount that was in before. Go ahead, that's it.
Representative Fraser and then Representative Grenier. So which is the line 9? Representative Fraser, you
Yes.
Yes,
Line
on Representative Shaw's first comment, I think the grammar, the syntax here wasn't clear enough. These are different options. You can tell them all by they start with gerunds, ing words. Where did they start? Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were right. I see the or. Or will meet a need not currently being met in the school district. Okay, I read it, but I didn't, the first part bogged me
But don't
down
you
and I
have the
didn't.
same issue with the word convincing that's in there, in that statement as well? On line 8.
Yes. A clear and documented case. I don't think convincing, to me, it's like, well, who do I have to convince?
Subjective, yeah, that's a subjective.
I think it's too subjective, I really do.
Representative Grenier.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I still have some growing pains on the part about the mission statement, and I lived through or suffered through 3 10-year reaccreditations in a public high school, and I do have a sense of the importance of the mission statement. However, I have a concern as to what the guidance here is for our charter schools. I know what a mission statement was when I was in school, and it was fairly clear-cut, but I asked the committee if any questions were asked of existing charter schools, or if there was any feedback as to how these requirements would affect their ability to do a mission statement. Do we have anything concrete in terms of how this would work? It might not yet, but could anyone either from
We have evidence that they may not be working because of the proliferation of applications.
okay, so we don't have.
A little bit in regard to that, Madam Chair. We went through an accreditation review of Woodsville High School, and when they went from teacher to teacher, department to department, they asked the question about what is the school's mission. They didn't get one consistent response. And as a result of that, that was part of the reason why there was really no alignment throughout that entire school where we're going. And so I concur what Representative Milo and Frazier have done here, is that the mission is the umbrella. That's very important, that we have a mission statement that everyone in that school is aware of and can work towards, so we're on the same page. And it did cause that accreditation report not to come out very satisfactory. When the community saw that report, the parents saw it, they, all of a sudden, all the instructors in that building were hopping on it and starting to correct that recommendation.
I didn't see who got
I have a response to
Representative Myler.
I did talk with Dr. Tenney about that, who is responsible for the charter schools, and she had indicated to me that they work very directly with individuals who come forth. That's one of the first things they do, is to help them craft a mission statement that would basically provide the foundation for the rest of the planning. So the department does in fact work with those who have an intent of opening a charter school.
Thank you.
Representative Cordelli.
Thank you. I guess following up on previous comments, and the work that the department has done in working with new charter schools that seems to have worked well. I think we've only had 4 charter schools go out of business in the state, and they were all primarily due to financial reasons. So I think the process works fairly well right now. I think most of this information is part of the application process and reviewed and gone over in detail by the department with the new charter school. And so I think to an extent that there isn't a problem, that maybe this is trying to solve a problem that isn't there, and perhaps following up on Representative Ladd's comments and Representative Grenier's comments, maybe we should require a better mission statement from all public schools, not just charter public schools. So maybe we should broaden this more. Let's, take out charter schools and bring it all public schools. I'll put it in an amendment.
That's our legislature too.
Okay, Representative Fraser had her hand up, and then Representative Shaw, and then Representative Bone.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I got these materials out to respond to Representative Shaw about the issue of condensing. I would be happy to take that word out if people think it's unnecessary. But the reason I put condensing in there, in a way, this answers the other question too, about what help do they get in doing this. We had a charter school study committee last year that Representative Ballard chaired, and we were given a huge packet of information by the DOE. And in those materials are these 2 charts that the DOE actually uses when they are analyzing the applications. And I worked with these, because this is what they actually use. This chart sort of creates categories based on the legislation and the things required by the law, which I've got here if anyone wants to see it. This one refines this one and has categories and actual points. It reminded me of how I used to grade when I was a teacher. I told my students how many points for this, how many points for that. And what got me on this in the first place was that 100% that they used as a guideline in the, deciding the applications, the mission statement counts only 10%. So it seems to me that in view of how important, as we've been saying, that the mission statement is, that being only 10% is unsatisfactory. There are other things like the transportation plan, very important, but it counts 8%, only 2 points less than the whole mission statement. So these kinds of documents are used in deciding. That's why I added the convincing in there to say, you know, how do you get the points on these charts? And that's all, thank you.
Well, I have a question. Representative, convincing is a qualifying word, and were there any criteria in there to define how you measure convincing?
Well, this
I know
one,
in the other side, the children and family law, clear and convincing evidence, there is.
well, this form they've been using says the mission and vision statement should be meaningful, clear, and easy to understand.
Well, all right,
It
but
doesn't
you
say
said
that.
you're willing to go with.
Yeah, I'm willing to take that out.
Okay. Representative Bowman had his hand up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I mean, I go with the amendment because it makes the bill better, but so against the bill at all, because the problem is, I think by putting in a percentage of what the mission statement is going to be, then sort of ties the hand of the DOE on going through everything else that's needed. And also have concerns on both, on the international bill, because initially the DOE, their testimony was, they had a question on what does innovation mean, and that's subjective, as sort of similar to, again, what I'm sure said about convincing and convincing evidence, and that's so sort of subjective also. I mean, what's convincing to me may not be convincing to Representative Ladd. But anyway.
Well, you'll learn soon.
But anyway, so anyway, I think, no, the amendment is better than the bill, but I still think it still gives too much emphasis to a mission statement rather than some of the other requirements that are there. I agree that the mission statement is a necessary thing, but, yeah, but they lowered it from 60 to 50, but it makes it better, but I don't think it's.
Thank you, Representative Bowman. Representative Greenwood?
Yes, well, my only question, by taking the mission statement 50%, what are you deleting from what they already do?
Well, that would be up, that was Representative Bowman's point, that
Yeah.
would be up to the DOE to look at the other categories.
If there's
Maybe
enough-
some of the other things aren't necessary.
Well, that may be-
But the mission statement is
Well, I
what
understand
guides
that.
the whole organization.
I understand that.
Good. Are we ready to?
No,
Representative
that's all right.
Shaw?
No, I was just gonna say, and I don't know if it's still, necessary, but, I know that the schools in Manchester all have a mission statement, each individual school, and you can be held accountable to what is said in your mission statement. So, I just think mission statement, and if I was going to open a charter school, I would love to have 50% of it being a mission statement.
Representative Fang and then Representative Gorman.
my motivation may secretly be efficiency here, but I don't really have a problem working with convincing, at least enough of a problem to go back and completely rewrite the amendment and stall it.
No, we won't do that,
But
it just
I,
comes down to one word, we're,
I'm thinking, if we don't have the word
Right on.
convincing, we're still opening the door to subjectivity. Because someone can still say, well, you've given me evidence that it were different, but I don't find that particularly convincing evidence, so I'm not gonna accept the mission statement. So whether you have the word in or you don't, it's very subjective, your interpretation of whether the evidence is sufficient or not. So it would be my instinct to not make a big deal out of one word.
Representative Gorman?
Why, thank you. In talking to Roberta Tenney, when schools apply for renewal, they look at 4 areas: the mission statement, the governance, the achievement of the students, and their sustainability. The mission statement is very, very important in regard to a school being established and being reauthorized, and I don't think the word convincing is going to make a big deal in or out. I think evidence is the word.
Thank you, Representative Gorman. Representative Dick?
Yes, in the subcommittee, I voted against it. And I don't want to downplay the mission statement, but a note that the representative had on one of the notes here from, excuse me, Roberta Tenney. It says here that she simplified the evaluation that the DOD does by giving a mission statement. This was 55% at the time, now it's on to 50%, and take the other 27 elements of the application and put them into 4 groups of 15 each. To me, when you got 27 elements that you're evaluating, and even if you break them down into the 4 groups that you just mentioned, mission statement, student success, governance, and financial responsibility, 27 items, that's, to go down to 50%, to me, that's an awful lot. And I'm not downplaying the importance of a mission statement, but when you look at the 27 items, and then you're given 26 of them into 3 separate categories at less than 15% apiece, and then one at 50%, I just think it's a little out of balance.
Well, there
My
might be
2
other-
cents worth.
There might be other ways of making that distribution. Representative Granger?
I must go back to my experience of living through having a mission statement and going through reaccreditation. Every single teacher is part of reports. Every single report says, show how blah blah supports the mission statement. And I guess for the school Representative Ladd was talking about, perhaps they hadn't really geared up to that. That determines every 10 years, and it's not by us, it's by, and I can't remember the letters that do this every year in high school. You are held to that mission statement for every document you put out, and it is extremely important. It is the most important part of what you do in your evaluation of your school. And so, as far as what will be done in a school that's not a high school, they will never get reaccredited. But nonetheless, the importance of that in defining what is done by each teacher is, you can't argue against that. Whether it should be 45 or 50, I don't know. So, that's all I shall say on this subject.
Thank you. I think we're ready to vote on this, and I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
I must clarify something.
I just needed, since a parliament, I guess, a point of information. Are we voting with convincing in or out?
Well,
Can we have a show of hands?
yeah, you can have a show of hands. Representative Shaw has taken the word convincing out of line 8 and also line 24. And I feel we do not have to recess, want other bills, and wait for this to be officially amended. I absolutely trust that Representative Fraser will take that. May I have a show of hands of those people who feel that the word convincing could be removed?
What about line 18?
Could be.
No.
Should be.
Wait,
It's on line 18, wasn't it?
oh, come on. What line?
18.
24 and 18, wasn't it?
8, 18, and 20.
18.
Okay, 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, hands down. Now we have to discuss the word convincing in line 18.
The used.
Those,
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
you do?
So I think that just taking convincing out in all three places is,
Right.
makes it more, I think it sounds better. And I don't think it, you know, it probably doesn't make a big deal one way or another, but convincing turns me
I
off.
think it softens it, all right,
Yeah.
it softens it, and makes it a little more flexible. All right, so how many people would like to delete the word convincing? Well, let me say it this way, is there anyone opposed to it? Okay.
I would just ask, would anyone, would the group accept, taking out evidence as well and just saying and documentation? No?
No, come on.
No.
Okay, all right. I give up.
All right, the motion has been made on amendment 0619H by Representative Fraser, seconded by Representative Myler of pass. So I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Representative Grassi.
Convincingly, yes.
Representative Shaw, yes. Representative Gorman.
Yes.
Representative Kane.
Yes.
Representative Frazier.
Yes.
Representative Spang.
Yes.
Representative Rokas.
Yes.
Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Myler.
Yes.
Representative Bohm.
Yes.
Representative Glad.
Yes.
Representative Greenmore.
Yes.
Representative Petrie.
Yes.
Representative Bick.
Yes.
Representative Cordelli.
Yeah.
Representative Grenier.
Yes.
Representative Harris.
Yes.
Representative Guile.
Yes.
18.
All right.
Just wait for the right to recommend it.
Yeah. Yes, no, I'm gonna.
Convincing for
Three.
three. I've got lines 8 and 18.
And 24.
24.
Please, now let's go on to the bill itself as amended by 06198, which is really replacing the entire bill. Doesn't say that, but it is.
Very much.
Any further discussion on the bill as amended? Then I'm gonna ask the clerk to call the roll.
Who made the Archicast
Oh,
for
no, we
the
don't
amendment?
have a,
Yeah, someone more than right.
may I have a motion on the bill, please? All right,
Go ahead, Judy.
I will move
all right,
of HB 1449.
all
I
right.
will move on to pass on HB 1449.
Pass as amended. Pass as amended. May I have a second?
Second.
Second is Gorman, right?
Yes.
And that's Fraser. Thank you for reminding me. I wondered why nobody, any discussion, further discussion? All right, let's call the roll.
Representative Grassi.
Yes.
Representative Shaw, yes. Representative Gorman.
Yes.
Representative Gold. Stop. Representative Kane.
Yes.
Representative Frazier.
Yes.
Representative Spang. Representative Rokas.
Yes.
Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Myler.
Yes.
Representative Bohm.
No.
Representative Glad.
Yes.
Representative Greenmore. Representative Petrie.
No.
Representative Bick.
No.
Representative Cordelli.
No.
Representative Grenier.
Yes.
Representative Harris.
Yes.
Representative Guile.
Yes.
15-5. No. wait a minute.
13-5.
13-5.
13. And that's all. All right, the last bill that was scheduled for today's executive session, and then we'll move on to the bills that were recessed from Tuesday, is 1488 FN, which is adopting the interstate compact on educational support for military children. There was no subcommittee on that bill, so I would open it to discussion. adopting the interstate compact. There are copies in here for everybody.
They're right here. Second one.
So Representative Ladd will have an amendment, right?
Yes.
There's more in the office. 1488, military compact.
No, I have everything I need here. Thank you. I just need one. Oh, I need one. Thank you.
Maybe somebody in the audience.
Mayor, have you got any answers?
During the lull, can I just, Representative Myler, you have to sign the subcommittee sheet over here. And Representative Rokas and Representative Teacher, you haven't signed in the agenda.
You don't sign anything. Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Of this compact? So I'm going to recognize you, Representative Ladd, to introduce your amendment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Unless you want a copy of the compact?
Yeah, for discussion purposes, I'd like to introduce amendment 0652H for House Bill 1488. And this is not the first time this bill has come before the committee. In fact, it came before the committee previously under the title 1606. And now it's here in front of us, 1488. This bill, as presented to us, the Interstate Military Compact, is a really complex bill. And the first articles within it that we have discussed, articles, I believe, Article 8. I'm trying to work through all this stuff here. And everything from thereafter deals with Interstate Commission, and it deals with things like state coordination, Interstate Commission, the powers and duties of that commission, the organization, operation of the commission, the rule-making authority of that commission, oversight and enforcement by that commission, financing for the commission, addresses member states, withdrawal and dissolution, etc. They are all issues which don't deal with the student. It's all administrative oriented from on high. What I've done by this amendment is kept in working with one of the makers of the bill, Representative Baldessaro, tried to keep in the intent and language which really helps the students which are coming in from a sending school, could be anywhere in the world that they're military kids, and they're coming to a receiving school in New Hampshire. By doing this, we're codifying first portions of the bill, and I'll walk through the bill in a second and show you where the changes would be within it. We're codifying that, but we're also keeping the strong arm of the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. out of the business of New Hampshire. The appeal process doesn't go there. The attorneys involved with it, we don't do that. The financing and costs of the program, they're not there. What we are including in this bill is all the intent. So let's look at that now and go through the first part, which tells you about the program. And so basically what you need to be doing is looking just at the amendment itself, because the amendment replaces everything in that original bill. The areas which have been changed in that, a few areas underneath the purpose of the program have been changed to reflect rather than saying sending state, it says sending school or school district, receiving state, the states are out of it, it's now local. It's all up to the local school district or the local school. Under definitions, they talked about accredited. In the original bill, there was no definition of what accredited was or is. On page 2, you can see accredited school is defined there, and it's defined in accordance with what we already have in the statute. It references the New England Association of Schools and Colleges or a like organization that validates and establishes maintenance of high standards for all levels of education. It goes down where they had extracurricular before and gives a definition of co-curricular, which we identify. We use the word co-curricular in New Hampshire statute, as I spoken before. And we've taken out the definition which we have in law and used it here. Shall have the same meaning as in RSA 193(1)(c), and includes those activities which are designed to supplement and enrich regular academic programs of study, provide opportunities for social development, and encourage participation in clubs, athletics, performing groups, and service to school and community. We have got down there where you see sending school in the bottom and sending state. Sending school has been changed. It used to be sending state. We have sending school. Going on to the next page, I'm trying to look at where we have some change. Let's go down into applicability. Everything from here forward reflects some of the language I've already mentioned. Under educational records and enrollment, the student is allowed to bring in a copy of their records, and with that copy you use to place the child until the school can receive an official by way of whatever route they do that. It helps in expediting placement of the child in the classroom. Official educational records and transcripts, that wasn't changed. Immunizations, it reflects the RSA of our state. Enrolling students may be given 30 days from the date of enrollment or within such time as is determined reasonable by the local education agency to obtain any immunization or immunizations required under our statute. For a series of immunizations, initial vaccinations shall be obtained within 30 days or within such time as is determined reasonable by the local education agency. That would most likely be your nurse in the school. Kindergarten and first grade entrance age students. This allows for the kid that goes into a school at a little earlier age than they may in our state. That's allowed, that's permissible. The kid just keeps moving on where they were. Placement and attendance, that has not been changed. Educational program placement, yes, on line 29, it spoke, I believe, in the prior bill to gifted and talented programs. You will not find gifted and talented in our statutory law. We don't have it. Some states do, and it's a costly deal. And some districts may do it, but they're doing it as a result of local boards making that decision to fund it locally and to do that. Rather than putting it in a statute where we start opening up the barn door, opted to leave that out and put in the two programs which we have under differentiated aid, which we do provide. That's remedial reading for a kid that's in the 3rd grade that's not in special education. That was put in, that was the Stiles Amendment of Stiles Bill a couple of years ago. And English language learner was changed. You say English as a second language, ESL. We define it as ELL. Special education services remains the same. Placement flexibility, local education agency administrative officials shall have flexibility in waiving course program prerequisites. So you still have that, we're providing that flexibility. Going down to eligibility and those areas down here, I think that probably the thing which we need to look at is on the next page. When you look at number 1 and number 2 at the bottom of page 5, and then you go to line 3 if you can't, item 3 on page 6, if 1 and 2 don't give you the answer. Should a military student transferring at the beginning or during his or her senior year be eligible to graduate from the receiving local education, or if they're, ineligible to graduate from the receiving local education agency after all alternatives have been considered, and after verifying from sending local education agency that the student meets sending school graduation requirements, receiving school, with authorization from the sending local education agency, shall notify the graduating student of a diploma receipt from the sending school. So the receiving school notifies the school of sending, and here's what's happened, and the kid meets all graduation requirements, but not necessarily that of the school that they're now in. They will receive a diploma from the sending school. This is basically very similar to the language that's in the initial one. One area that I did jump over, and I meant to do it because I know this is an area which the representative to my left is always very much involved with, is co-curricular activities. I'm trying to find the sentence which we want to really deal with, because it's not just, it's not the definition. And now there's another place where we have it. It's the same, basically, bill as we had before. Yeah. Okay, it's on page 5. Eligibility for co-curriculum, line 28 on page 5. Co-curricular participation. State and local education agencies shall facilitate the opportunity for transitioning military children's inclusion in co-curricular activities, regardless of an application deadline, to the extent they are otherwise qualified and eligible. We're working with NHIAA here, and what we also have in terms of our own schooling, they have to be eligible there to participate in co-curricular as well. So what this does, it puts in the statute the parts which are directly impacting the student, but it takes out all that other stuff with the compact itself, the interstate compact. So that's
Representative Bowman, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify a couple of things. You won't find RSA 110 in your book, but it comes, 110 in our purple book. But RSA 110D is in RSA 110, and it adds a new chapter to 110, which comes under public defense and veterans affairs. So it's there. Also,
So in other words, anybody that wants to read what existed before
And nothing
would
existed
consult
before.
with our text.
and this is a brand new
Yes, yes,
section.
this is brand new.
Okay. Also, we're on when he mentioned about not having the receiving schools qualifications for the senior. One good example is in our school district, you have to have a sophomore project and a senior project. Of course, most law schools won't have that. So that's good information and good stuff on how that is going to be taken care of to allow the sending school district to do.
All right, Representative Grassi and then Representative Grenier, but I'm seriously considering recessing this bill to March 4th, so. Because people want to go side by side. And,
Well, I have a serious question about the incompleteness of this. It's wonderful and absolutely laudatory that we would bend over backwards to facilitate students transferring in with a military family into our public schools and making life as easy as possible for them. What does this do for my grandchildren in the military who might leave New Hampshire and go to another state?
They make the compact.
if we do not have them. This is in lieu of the military compact, right?
This is not the military compact, this is not complete, it's a separate program which we have in statute. However, if they are members of the military compact, they would, send to us for the records, whatever, and they're gonna follow the military compact that they're required to follow. We will be following everything we do with the process, we will send records, etc., according to the statutes here. We're just not being told that all our rules and statutes are secondary to the rules of the military compact. And if we operate separately or do whatever, and we say no, we're going to be in court.
I think there's a problem because in order for us to be our children recognized, New Hampshire would have to pay compact, there's a requirement of $2,000 or $1 per student that you have in your state. And if we aren't part of the military compact, our children aren't protected under this.
In other words, there's no one looking out for our kids in the 46 states that have already signed on to the military compact. There's no, I think, I'm going to recess this bill, House Bill 1488, until March 4th, on specific. I would like you to review the existing compact. This is very serious, and especially given the question that Representative Grassi has raised. Representative Ladd has created a really good New Hampshire version of the military compact. I think you would have to ask yourself, I'm recessing it, Representative Reno, how would this help the number of children associated with military families who go to other states and go to school? And that's maybe a problem you can think about, Representative Ladd.
I guess I'm just missing what you're trying to say. If you have a student that's in this school district that's whose parent is in one of the uniformed services on active duty, and they move to Fort Bliss, Texas, then they take with them a copy of their transcripts, wherever they want to, or the records. Could be informal, they could take it. The receiving school then acts in accordance with their process, their statutory language which they have, which will have all these articles there in place. So they're going to accept that. They don't accept it just because we are or are not in the impact and the compact and paying whatever dues or whatever we're supposed to be paying for a child or the minimum of $2,000. I don't understand the logic here that because it's statute, they've got to do it.
Well, the bill is recessed to March 4th in the afternoon. And please, committee, do, the original bill is very long and covers a number of areas. The amendment is written a little differently. I don't know, we can't get a side by each this afternoon, or side by diagram this afternoon. So you're just gonna have to try to win it as you compare the different parts of the original bill with the amendment. But please take time to do that during your vacation. Or at least during the morning of March 4th. All right, we have 3 more bills. These were the recessed bills from Tuesday, the 18th. I'm hoping to get everybody out of here by 3 o'clock because there is a subcommittee meeting. And let me address House Bill 1321, which is relative to reporting of armed services vocational aptitude battery stores. 1321. And there was no subcommittee on this bill, so I will entertain a motion or open the floor for discussion.
Only concern I have with the bill, but I don't really care that much about it, was it requires the school district to check a box on the thing, which gives more duty for a school district to do, which I don't think they need to, but anyway, that's another issue.
A checkbox. In a nutshell, this bill refers to students under the age of 18, primarily your 17-year-old students, who in high school have the option, but many do, of writing the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. My son did this when he was 17. As a result of writing that test, the results go directly to the recruiters. Am I correct in that? And Phil Hopkins has had this experience. And with or without at this point, it can go without the parents' permission. This is a 17-year-old. At 18, of course, the student is old enough to sign their own. Well, some people think that, the law thinks that. Some of us that have 18-year-olds may not necessarily agree. But this is essentially a student privacy and a parent rights bill. In other words, it gives the parents the choice of sending deciding whether or not the results of their son or daughter's test can go to the office or not. All right, the parent, in other words, the option 8 says, I do not want my daughter's results to go to the recruiter's office. Another parent might say, I think this is a great opportunity, and let it go. So that's all that this bill is about. I think that it is, having gone through a very difficult situation with my own 17-year-old who wanted to go right into the Army out of high school, and having a husband who's a retired military person, having to go down to the recruiter's office and tell them to stop. Please stop the phone calls and the various recruitment types of literature so I would entertain a motion for discussion. Representative Shaw.
I move ought to pass.
Second.
Representative Shaw has moved ought to pass on House Bill 1321. And it has been seconded by Representative Gorman. Further discussion. Representative Cordell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess one problem I have is mandating school districts to do something. In general, this mandates them to use the option 8. The Department of Education, there was testimony that the department sent a letter to all districts last year informing them of the availability of option 8 to be selected. And also, there was, in my mind, conflicting testimony about who administers the test, if it's administered by the military, if and where people sign up to take the test, whether it's at recruiters or in the school. So I'm just troubled by, I guess, questions in my own mind that remain.
Will Hopkins is here and has gone through that experience and can share this.
Will Hopkins with New Hampshire Peace Action. Thank you, Representative Cordelay. The test is administered by a civilian contractor working through the military entrance processing station out of Boston. Generally, there are recruiters present for the giving of the test. It's taken, it's multiple choice given with number 2 pencils. And then those results are scanned at the military entrance processing station in Boston. So that answers who gives it and how it's graded. And I'm happy to entertain any other questions folks have.
Thank you very much for responding to the question. Representative Black.
Yeah, that's not what the bill says though. The bill
He was
says,
answering the question.
no, but I'm saying what he just said is that I'm reading each public school that administers the ASVAB. It says that several times within this bill. It doesn't say the military recruiter administering the ASVAB or a contractor. It says the public school in several locations in this bill.
Yeah, the point is, you're right, because, I mean, even if somebody else, I think, administers it, it is still in the school. The argument also given that kids are taking it because they want to get out of class, the school thinks that they can easily just change the test just like SATs do and do it on a Saturday. But the other point is that the student wants to, they can just go down to the recruiter's office also and take the test, and then the school isn't administering it. Yeah, Representative Cordelli said, I sort of agree with him, but I don't think it's a major issue about school checking 8, and so, I mean, I don't think it hurts anything. The parents still have to, I mean, the student cannot go in, or a child cannot go into the military unless they have the parents' permission before they turn 18. In my case, it was a similar test, it wasn't called that when I was 17. Parents didn't know about it, and I didn't want them to know about it, but I had to wait till my 18th birthday to go in. So the point is, I mean, parents' permission, but, I mean, in some cases, you really want your parents' permission. In that case, I guess you can go to the recruiter and do it without your parents' permission. So I think it still leaves it out for those kids that have parental problems, they can still do it, but it just makes the school, get it done at the school. But kids can still go off and do it on their own.
Further discussion? Thank you, Representative. Representative Goodell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess one remaining question is if the test is actually scanned at a military facility, won't they have the results anyway? If you know, if it's administered and graded at the school, then I see how option 8 plays into it in terms of sending the results to the military, as seems to be indicated in the bill, as opposed to having it scored at a military facility. They're gonna have the results anyway, I would think.
And I think with the box 8 checked, then it prevents the military from calling the recruiters.
It's really a privacy and parent privacy and student privacy, parent permission. Are we ready to?
Just another question. Is it the policy of the school that we have the ASVAB, and so we're going to administer the ASVAB, and so that's the school board's approved this, or the administration approved it, and their administrative rules, whatever. Do they have to notify the parent that they're going to be giving this at school?
No, they do not.
I don't think they do.
No, I know in our case, our son took it, and we didn't know about it until we started getting deluged.
But then in a similar case, the students can take the SAT test without their parents' permission. They still need, I mean, in some cases, they might need the parents' permission to send in money for the college board to then notify the schools, but the student they can still do it on their own. So there's a little bit of a double standard here. I mean, kids can take SATs without parents' permission. And the colleges can start notifying them.
Well, the kids are 18 when they go to college.
Not
Well,
necessarily.
well, 90% of them.
But they still can't go to the military till they're 18 now.
That's right, that's right. At 18, they can make
All
all,
the
students can make all their own.
They can take all their students.
Yeah. Representative.
I just want to say that, thank you, Madam
Getting on
Chair.
for 3.
And I'll try to go quickly, but sometimes parents and kids have a plan for that child's life. And if you're going to allow recruiters to come based upon the test result, and I'm sure if someone does very well, there is a certain amount of pressure upon that child to change the plans that parents have. And these guys come in, they're sharp, they're very respectful, and they're
Oh, yeah,
kids
that
are
is
very. And so that is an issue, I think, in terms of parents' rights. So, I'm,
All right, shall we move this along? We still have 2 more bills. We've heard it's 1 minute of 3. All right.
No pressure.
I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll. The bill has been moved by Representative Shaw, seconded by Representative Gorman, and the vote is ought to pass.
Representative Grassi,
Yes.
Representative Shaw, yes. Representative Gorman,
Yes.
Representative Kane,
Yes.
Representative Frazier,
Yes.
Representative Spang,
Yes.
Representative Brocus,
Yes.
Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Weiler,
Yes.
Representative Bones,
Yes.
Representative Glad,
Yes.
Representative Greenmore, Representative Petrie,
Yes.
Representative Vick,
Yes.
Representative Cordelli,
Yes.
Representative Grenier,
yes.
Representative Harris,
Yes.
Representative Guile.
Yes. 18 to 0. Are you making a motion to put it on consent? Representative Bohm, is there any problem with putting it on consent? Yeah, I know. All right.
We don't want it to be called Mary and Company.
No.
That's a, we have to read Steve down for it.
Oh, really?
Candy and Company on a transportation.
We're gonna deal with that the next time we meet. 1298 is our next bill. And this is relative to additional criteria for review of charter public school applications. This is Representative Ladd's bill. However, Representative Myler did have the subcommittee
No,
on this
our
bill.
subcommittee recommended ITL.
The recommendation is ITL. Are you making a motion, Representative Myler?
Oh, yes, I would move from the committee ITL this.
All right, okay. Is there a second? All right, for purposes of discussion, we've got a motion on the floor. Representative Fraser.
Yes, I just want to point out for information that there are only two proposals in the bill. And one of them was incorporated in its very language into my bill. And I believe the other statement was subsumed somewhere else, or, that's why the ITL, it's not an objection to what.
That's right, I worked with Representative Frazier here, and I was concerned, remember, the problematic and geographic, North Country, and
and that came
geographic
over-
was included into the
Yes.
prior bill, and that's
So you're in
why I
favor
supported
of
that
that?
bill, and this one's fine, dump this.
Okay. Rick says bump his bill.
Well, and that came out of our study, we
Yeah.
tried to address that, so it was included in Representative Fraser's amendment. All right, any further questions?
I think that should definitely be included in the blurb,
Okay.
those comments.
You hear that, Representative Myler? All right, I'm gonna ask the clerk to call the roll on House Bill 1298. The motion is ITL, moved by Representative Myler, seconded by Representative Grassi. Are you ready?
Sir, yes, my fingers have stopped working.
Three.
Representative Grassi,
Yes.
Representative Shaw, yes, Representative Gorman,
Yes.
Representative Kane,
Yes.
Representative Frazier, yes, Representative Spain,
Yes.
excuse me, Representative Rokas,
Yes.
Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Myler,
Yes.
Representative Bohm,
Yes.
Representative Ladd,
Yes.
Representative Greenmore,
Yes.
Representative Petrie,
Yes.
Representative Dick,
Yes.
Representative Cordelli, Representative Grenier,
Yes.
Representative Harris,
Yes.
Representative Guile.
Yes.
Move consent,
Zero.
Madam Chair.
18 to 0.
Move consent.
Representative Bohm moves consent. Are there any problems with that? All right, it goes on the consent calendar. Okay, the last bill of the day, House Bill 1392, removing the restriction on the number of pupils eligible to transfer to a charter public school. Again, this was a charter bill and one that was considered by the subcommittee that was chaired by Representative Myler. You had 6 bills, did you know?
Yes.
Busy.